Hey guys, my name is Eric Teeters and I'm going to show you the pre-flight on the PA-28 151 Warrior November 41459er. So let's start in the cockpit. You can see I'm crouched down here, we got the door open, and we're going to take a look inside. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the instrument panel. Down here there's a red switch, that's your master switch. What you want to do is you want to turn that on, just like that. And we're going to check to make sure we got volts over here on the left hand side. So we've got 12.4 volts, 12 volt battery, so it means it's fully charged. And it'll slowly drain down if we leave the master switch on. So we want to be quick. We'll take a look at our fuel quantity on the left hand side. It's showing we got about 10 gallons, and on this side we've got about 15. It may or may not be accurate. We'll check it out in person out there at the fuel tanks in just a minute. After we do that, we're going to turn the master switch off so we don't forget it. We also want to take a look in here to make sure that the keys are out of the ignition and they're sitting up on top of the dash. So the magnetos are not hot and ready to harm us if we go up there and move the propeller around. Alright, so now moving on to the next thing, we're going to take the flaps. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to put the flap bar up, which puts the flaps down out here so we can inspect them. And last thing we're going to do, we're going to take a look at grab our fuel stick and our gas draining jar. We're going to look in here. We've got the flight manual with the weight and balance for the aircraft sitting right here, the operating limitations, and the weight and balance for the aircraft is right there. Okay, that's all well and good. It's in the airplane, ready to go. In the back, we've also got the registration, airworthiness, all in the back there, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. Coming out of the airplane, just be careful stepping down. Big step, you want to step not on the flap at this point, you want to step on the step below. There we go. We'll open up the baggage door and take a look inside. There's a little tab thing here you can pull off right here and stick it on here. And that'll hold the baggage door open, keep you from hitting your head. Max baggage weight, 200 pounds. All right, I'm not gonna sit in there, so don't worry about it. Let's see, back here we've got the registration and the airworthiness certificate. So registration's in white there. The airworthiness one is the old one right here, and now the old one is the one that came from the factory with the aircraft. There's no loose objects in the back here. Everything looks good. So I'm satisfied with that. We're gonna close this. Come on, there we go. And this guy is going to go down. Now we're going to lock that. You want to make sure it's secure so it's not going to go anywhere. Next thing, we're going to take a look at our flaps. We want to make sure our flap push rod is bolted on there and there's a cotter key, which it is. We should have a little bit of play in the flap, that's fine, but it shouldn't have very much side-to-side play at all. There are hinges on the flap on the bottom, a little bit easier to see on the other side though when we're checking out the wheel. This is our aileron. We want to make sure that the aileron has free and full of travel, which it does. You want to be careful when you're pushing and pulling on the aileron. You don't want to push on the soft part of the skin. If you do push anywhere, you want to push where there's rivets. That means there's a rib there. On the bottom of the aileron, we've got hinges with bolts, which is good. Hinge with bolts, good. And we've got a push rod with bolts. One more bolt to look at down here for the hinge. Sorry about the lighting, but that's good. Aileron and flap on the right hand side look great. Okay, moving on. Got the wingtip is secure, and the nav light we would check on with the battery on the inside if we were going to go fly at night. But we don't need the nav lights right now. Moving along the leading edge, I don't see any damage. And we got our fuel placard on there like we're supposed to. We can check the tank by opening it like this and looking inside. We've got our handy dandy little fuel stick. The fuel stick, what you do is you take your finger, put it on top like that when it's in there, just like a straw. Stick it in there like that, put your finger on it, pull it out and see what it reads. And we got about 15 gallons, just like the indicator said on the inside. So now we're gonna close this guy and secure it. Looks good. Down here on the bottom of the wing, we have the tie down right here. We have the jack point right here, and then we have the fuel vent right here. And we want to make sure that those are untied and that the fuel vent is free and clear of debris. We got our first fuel sump right here. So we'll sump a little bit of gas out of it. And it should be blue with no debris or junk or anything. And then over on this side, we've got the strut. And the strut should have about 4 fingers, which is fine. It should be about 4.5 inches of travel. Shouldn't be fully collapsed. This is your brake for this side. And also you got your brake lines in the back. You shouldn't have any hydraulic fluid leaking out of it. It's kind of hard to fully inspect the brakes, but you can kind of see the brake disc in there and get some idea of the condition. As well as the tire. Make sure that it looks like it's inflated and that it's got tread on it. Don't see any cords or flat spots. The wheel pant should be secure, as should all the other inspection panels and stuff that you see down here. You also have the flap tracks with the nuts and bolts that you can see in the back there. It's a good idea to take a look at those while you're down here. Make sure the flap is secure. All right, while we're down here, we're gonna get this last sump, which is way down here. It's kind of like doing yoga. Getting down on your belly on the floor. There we go. More fuel to check. There we go. Looks good. Nothing like laying on a hangar floor to kind of brighten your day up. If you're having a bad day, laying down on that dirty hangar floor, nothing like it. Here we go. Now we're moving on to the hinges, the hinge pins. Right here, making sure they got cotter keys on them, which they do, so the door's not going to fly off. Hey, that's a good thing, right? Now what you want to do is you want to set your gas jar down at this point, and you want to make sure your fuel stick's stuck someplace, like your pocket or someplace safe you're not going to lose it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to inspect the engine compartment now. I've already unlatched this from previously, but you can see how it's unlatched by turning this, pulling up like that. And we've got one in the front as well. And we carefully lift the cowling open. Now if there's no wind, it's okay to kind of lay it over like that. It's not going to do any damage, but if it's windy out and you're on the ramp, you want to be careful and hold on to that cowling to make sure it's not going to go anyplace. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the oil. So we're going to undo the dipstick, pull it out. What I like to do is pull it out part way, and then I like to take a look at the dipstick itself. Now I've drained this before. I checked this before, so I'm going to wipe that off just a little bit so you can see the lines a little bit clearly. But there's the 8-quart mark, and the 6-quart mark is down here. And we're just above the 6-quart mark right now. So when you put this guy back in here, what you want to do is just nice and gingerly bring it snug. You don't need to wrench the thing on like you're a gorilla. Don't be a gorilla. And then on the inside, we've got our oil filter, which is right here. We'll check the safety wire on the other side. We want to make sure there's no oil leaks. You've got your vacuum pump right here, and you've got your magneto for the right-hand side right here. And all the leads coming off of the magneto, going forward. You've got 2 spark plugs on this side on the bottom, and you've got 2 on top. So you want to make sure that the spark plugs are connected. And your push rods for your cylinders don't have any damage. You don't see anything leaking inside there. And down here we've got our air filter and our air box. Air filter is on the inside, and the air for the engine comes through this little pipe, through the air filter, through the duct, and into the carburetor, which is down below. Now we've got our intake pipes right here coming up from our fuel air mixture going into the cylinders. We also have our exhaust right here, so be careful if it's hot. You probably don't want to just grab onto the exhaust. But there shouldn't be any cracks and everything should be connected. A couple more things to take a look at here. We've got the fuel primer lines right here, and those are for priming the aircraft. You want to make sure those are connected, no fuel coming out. Rubber shock mounts for your engine mount look good. This is your nose gear steering linkage right here. And you have right back here, you got a little shimmy dampener. You want to make sure that it's doing good. It doesn't look like it's blown out or anything. There isn't grease coming out. All the ducts are hooked up for your heating system inside the cabin, so should you get cold, you can turn those guys on. It's nice and warm out today. We shouldn't need that. We're going to go ahead and secure the cowling. And you want to make sure that it's underneath that little metal tab to make sure it's fully locked. There's no screws missing from the front of the cowling. And then looking down here again, we got about 3.5 inches on the strut extension. All the nuts and bolts on the scissor link are attached. The tire looks good, and the pressure looks good, and the wheel pant is secure. All right, moving forward. There we go. Now we're going to check the condition of the propeller blade. So, looking at the propeller, you want to make sure that there's no dings, dents, anything that's going to indicate damage or potential failure of the propeller blade. Now, if it's more than about 1/8 of an inch of a ding on the propeller, you probably want to get it dressed out by a mechanic with a file. And when they dress it out, they'll take care of it to make sure it's not going to be a problem. There are specifications for the propeller to make sure it's a specific length, and you know, if it gets too worn down, then the propeller doesn't meet the specifications anymore. But this is a freshly overhauled propeller, so it does. Looking inside here, we've got the engine compartment on this side, air cooling fins for the cylinder. We want to make sure it's clear in here and the baffles are connected like they should be, and the cowling screws are where they belong. We've got the air filter inlet, which no birds nests in there, no gremlins. Here's your starter. It might be a little hard to see, but you can see it there. That's the starter pin, and it extends out and engages that bull gear that's right there, and that's what turns the propeller for starting. Again, looking at the tire, tread looks good. And on this side, on the inlet for this side, no bird's nest or anything like that. We've got the spinner is secure with screws. Don't see any cracks in the spinner, which would indicate potential failure points. Cowling's on. And we're going to open up this side now. All right. Here we go. Okay, looking at this side of the aircraft, we've got our oil cooler. Okay. We've got our brake fluid, we've got the left magneto, and you can see the oil filter from this side with the safety wire on it, like it's supposed to be. We also have our engine-driven fuel pump right here. That's in the center of the screen, and there's fuel lines connected to it. You want to make sure no fuel is leaking. And way down here, you've got your carburetor. So you make sure everything's connected like it's supposed to be, and make sure there's no fuel leaking out. We've got the electric fuel pump right here, electric fuel pump, and we have the gasculator right down here. So this is another sump system for us. Voltage regulator and wiring for the alternator right here. Again, everything looks good. All the leads are connected. I don't see any damage. I don't see any oil leaks. Exhaust looks good. No cracks. Everything's connected. Looks airworthy to me. So now we will close the cowling. This one, you want to get the back one first because it's a little tighter. Get it right on the spot there, and we'll get the forward one. All right, here's our nose gear from this side and the tips of the exhaust down here. We will drain this up, get a little bit out of there. Okay. Good. And checking to make sure it's still blue. I don't see any water globs in there. Here's your temperature probe. Everything looks secure on this side. We'll take a look down underneath on the left wing. We got another fuel sump down here. Oh, I'm gonna have to lay down on the floor again. Oh my God. There we go. Get a lot while you're down here, why not? And while I'm at it, I'm gonna get this fuel sump right here. Right there. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Oh, Lordy. There we go. Looking great. Okay. So we've got the strut on this side, which looks like it might be just a little bit low, actually. So maybe we'll charge that thing up before we go flying. And then we also have the brake line and the brake disc, which is visible right here. I don't see any hydraulic fluid or brake fluid leaking out. Hey, tire, look at that. Got a little tiny flat spot on that guy. I'm going to blame that one on Brendan's landing last time. So we'll... that's all right. That's fine. You know, when you start showing cords, then you're definitely in trouble. So I got to keep an eye on that tire as we move forward here. Hey, we're finding stuff. That's cool. All right, trucking forward. While we're down here, we'll take a look at the fuel vent on this side, which looks clear. The check point and the tie down's obviously not connected because it's in the hangar. We do have the pitot tube right back here, which is that gray thing sticking out with the hole in it. Looks like a little fin hanging off the airplane. And we have the stall warning horn, which if the master's on, it'll give us a nice little beep. And our left fuel tank with the placard. Looking inside here, I'm gonna pour our fuel from our GATS jar back in because it's nice clean fuel. Stuff's like liquid gold, right? Here we go. Our little straw coming down. Let's see how much fuel we got on this side. What do we got? Yeah, about 15. Yeah, so that gauge was off a little bit on the inside. No voltage. I've noticed sometimes as you get a little higher voltage on it, it seems like it comes up a little bit more accurately. But we know we've got 30 gallons of fuel on board, which is good. Don't see any dings or dents. You know the airplane flies, or at least goes really fast if it's got bugs on the leading edge. And we've got our nav light and our aileron. Same thing on this side. We're looking for the bolt with the nut attachment. There. And there. And there. And push rod. There we go. And it's free and full of travel. Okay. Everything's attached like it should be. Got the hinges here and no sloppy play on the flaps. Everything's rigged nicely. And we've got the push rod right here with the nut and bolt and cotter key. Okay, antennas up on top. We got a GPS antenna, a couple comm antennas. That black antenna right there, that's your ELT antenna. Then you got a nav antenna up on the very top there with the beacon. Don't see any damage, no structural damage to the aircraft. On the back end here, the data plate is present. Take a look at that bad boy. It ain't coming off. And we'll check the stabilator. We want to check to make sure that we have travel to the stops. Nothing rattling around. There's no play in the system. Trim tab moves accordingly. Trim tab hinges are secure. And the trim tab push rod is secure, as you can see right in there with the red blinking light. Here we go. Let's go into the stops. You see the bolts right in here activating as stops. It might be kind of hard to see with the light, but you can see it when you look. And we got hinges up here for the rudder, attached as they're supposed to be. Now we don't really play with the rudder too much while it's on the ground because there's a lot of tension, so don't feel like you have to move it back and forth. Nav light here. We'll check the lights in a few minutes. Again, hinge points here and here. Whoop. And free and full travel with no play. Everything is secure. If I push on the spar of the vertical stabilizer, I don't have any play on the vertical either. ELT, and the ELT access point is right down here, so if you ever have to get to it, hopefully you don't. All right, back to the baggage door we are, and there's one thing I forgot right back here. There's the tie down point right here. If there was a tie down, that's where it'd be on the tail. And last thing we can do is we can check the lights. So to turn the lights on, what we do is we turn the battery on. That's a no-brainer. And then we rotate this little guy up to where we get a click. Click. Nav lights on. And then a landing light and anti-collision light. So we can come out here now in the broad daylight and we'll do our little light check. First off, we got the beacon on the tail, which is working. Got the beacon underneath the aircraft. Whoa, that'll blind you, won't it? Anti-collision light, nav light right here, working on this side. We got a landing light. Another position light here. Another view of the anti-collision light up on top. And the nav light on the tail. All right, guys. Let's turn the battery off before we drain our battery totally down here. We're at 11.8 volts now. I want to be able to start it. Lights are off. Nav lights off, and batteries off. We can put the flap bar all the way back down, which will bring the flaps up. That way it makes it easier to get in. You never get violated by the airplane. Nobody's been violated yet, so we're in good shape. Now we did notice we have 15 gallons on both sides, and your fuel selector is down here on the left. We're set for the right tank right now, which is fine, because no tank is fuller. Alright guys, thanks for doing the walk around with me. I'm Eric Teeters. If you ever have any questions, just email me at erickcfi.com, erickcfi at gmail.com. That makes more sense. And or you can give me a call, 831-809-5375. Again, that's 831-809-5375. Take care of her. Take care of the warrior, and she'll take care of you.